Ripple was actually Ripple Pay clear back in 2004. And if you're familiar with the history, 2004 is actually 4 years before Satoshi Nakamoto came out with Bitcoin. So back then it was not a blockchain-based network, but it was a payment network that the person who started it wanted to morph into a worldwide network that could be a competitor against a thing called SWIFT and other payment networks that were popular in the area. So it was focused to, compete against PayPal and those kind of folks. So it is described as a cryptocurrency. Its call sign is XRP. The purpose is just simply to provide quick transactions one party to another. It's not meant to be sold as an investment, okay? So the value really hasn't gone very far since it first came to be. I think the top value has been about $3.30 and the lowest value has been $1.50. I mean, it just hasn't moved and has stayed very, very close to a certain range. And the whole idea with Ripple is that it's meant to try to keep a range. It's not tied to anything, but they don't want it to all of a sudden become the latest investment trend and have the market makers start manipulating the value of it up and down. So it serves as a middleman between two parties in a transaction, serves as a trustee so that it can make quick transfers and quickly verify the exchange has actually happened, okay? So whenever traders make a transaction using the network, a small amount of Ripple is taken. Now, the value of Ripple is about 2 to 3 times more than Stellar. And so you see that it's twice the amount of transaction fee, 0.002, but it's 0.002 of a larger number. So the transaction fee as a percent is actually lower, and it's very tiny in comparison with other networks, okay? Any institution that uses Ripple can expect to switch dollars or pounds or any kind of fiat currency between two locations very, very quickly. It wants to structure the network so that it can send transfers just about in real time. In other words, if you're on the phone to somebody and that person is across the world from you and you want to transfer money, the bank that is using Ripple will be able to send that transaction, and while you're still on the phone with the other person will say, it's here, and we're done, okay? So Ripple's a lot faster. About 4 seconds is the average amount of time that it takes, and the transaction after it goes through the approval process takes 3 to 5 seconds to finally approve a transaction and have it be solidified on the blockchain. So the other transactions, like for example, Bitcoin takes 2 to 10 minutes to approve a transaction and carry it out. Ripple can process 1,500 transactions per second. So from beginning to done, it's 3 to 5 seconds. So it's very, very quick. Now, there's another figure there. It says compared to the traditional SWIFT, and I'll tell you what SWIFT is in another video, Ripple's a lot faster, providing settlement in about 4 seconds instead of 2 to 3 days. Okay, so I want to send money to a friend of mine in Paris, France, and I'm here in the middle of the United States. I want to send money over there, and let's say it's $1,000. It's a significant sum of money, so I send that $1,000. If I use the traditional banking system, it takes 2 to 3 days to actually get it there and to actually secure the transaction and validate that the transaction actually happened. Compared to Ripple, night and day. So I don't know how long networks like SWIFT are going to survive. The problem is that networks like SWIFT are self-perpetuating in that everybody that's a middleman in that SWIFT network takes a little bit of a cut of that transaction. And all of a sudden, instead of 0.0002 of a Ripple, which is only $3, you've got, as much as 4 to 5% of a transaction instead of just pennies on the dollar. So That's the main difference, the fast transaction time. So let's go on. The security is much, much higher. The problem with banks is that when it goes through so many middlemen, you have a hard time tracing and tracking the transaction through all of those middlemen. You've got middlemen in there that are not necessarily great at bookkeeping, but the fact that they're not so great at bookkeeping only happens because they have to keep track of a lot of transactions. It's just hard to find your little needle in a haystack when you need to say, well, the money didn't get there. Where is it? Good luck tracing it through all the places that it went in order to get to its destination. So that's the main thing with Ripple, is the fact that they've really, really worked hard on making sure the transactions are secure. So banks that join the Ripple network, for example, they will purchase the XRP coin on the one side, and they'll put the money and exchange the money into the XRP coin and then send it. And on the other side, they get the XRP coin and they convert it back to the type of currency that you want. So let's say I want to send to that person in France. I send $1,000. They take the Ripple and buy euros with it on that side and give it to the customer, because they spend euros over there, I spend dollars over here. And the transaction is very seamless because we've sent Ripple across the borders, but at each side, the native currency is what gets converted from the currency to Ripple, and then Ripple to the other currency. So the exchange rate difference is a huge difference as well, okay? Now, the Ripple network has attracted 100 different financial institutions, continues to gain more partners, and we're talking partners like JP Morgan Chase, the largest bank in the world, and HSBC, which is the largest bank in the UK, and it keeps on garnering more and more people. The Ripple software is Xcurrent. That is the software that the banks install, and so once the banks install it behind their firewall, it becomes part of their security system, and it is protected just as though any of the other digital transactions are protected within each of the banks. Okay. So Ripple really helped another situation with when decentralized finance started coming to be. Ripple was included in the decentralized finance experience, and because it had a decentralized focus on it. In other words, because Ripple was an independent coin out there attached to the DeFi networks, it contributed to the security and the speed of the distributed finance app, as well as XRP itself. So one thing about having a decentralized coin, and I've intimated this already, and here it states it in this particular article that I took, it says, one major factor is that centralized finance does not come with a guarantee. In other words, you send through the legacy systems from the midsection of the US to France, you don't necessarily have guarantees that it's going to get there. You might have a bank that'll stand up for it on your side and say, well, if it doesn't get there, we'll refund your money. But the bank still can lose between those 2 points and have to search for the money and really figure out where the money went and how it got lost. So the independent nature of Ripple allows you to get the money, verify it very quickly, and the decentralized nature of that helps with that whole process. So what we're hoping is that Ripple will, revolutionize the finance world. Now, because the legacy systems tend to be a little self-perpetuating, you're going to have a lot of those pushing back on trying to say, well, Ripple's not secure, or Stellar's not secure, or any of these other things are just schemes and they're not valid. We need a good, strong system like SWIFT that's been around for decades. Well, things that have been around for decades need to be updated, and that's just the way life works.